two Disney movies to tackle the theme of intergenerational trauma against the backdrop of foreign cultures, and furious debates among Disney and Pixar fans as to which one is better. Now, a few months ago, I did a whole video covering this topic, which you can find a link in the description to, but to give an extremely oversimplified version of it, I ultimately ended up arguing that Encanto was the better of the two movies for quite a few reasons. However, today I'd like to have my personal opinion take a back seat and look at this from a more objective perspective, mainly by taking a look at what other, normal people had to say about both these movies. And in case you haven't seen either of them yet, spoilers will abound for both of them, so if you don't want anything ruined, you should probably come back to this video another day. You have been warned. Alright, so in order to do this as fairly and impartially as possible, I'm simply going to take some reviews straight off of iTunes and read them aloud here, and maybe throw in my 2 cents every once in a while. Now please do note that all the following reviews, good or bad, are completely real, and if you were to go onto the iTunes rating section for these movies, you could just as easily find them. The only alterations I'll be making are any spelling or grammar mistakes. I'm not even going to pick them, just take the first bunch from the top. I may omit one or two if I think what they're saying is overly biased or irrelevant, but that'll be the extent of my involvement. And please do note that these reviews don't in any way reflect how I personally feel about either of them. As I just mentioned, the reviews I'm picking here are completely arbitrary and have nothing to do with me. And while I do understand that iTunes reviews are far from the be-all to end-all when it comes to how an audience truly feels about something, I'm simply doing this just to give you all a ballpark idea of how the average person might have actually felt about these movies. Because let's face it, not everybody dedicates their entire lives to expressing their thoughts, facts, findings, and opinions on YouTube. But to get into it, I will first begin with the reviews for Encanto. And here's what people had to say. Enchanted masterpiece. It's not very often Disney releases animated features for certain types of ethnicity. Nonetheless, the film is suited for everyone, regardless of language and race. Very kind of Disney to keep us Hispanics among their audience. Truly a movie that will be enjoyed by everyone. And next we have It Lacked Story. I get that this is one of Lin-Manuel Miranda's first times directing a movie, but this was just over so fast. Like what? I'd have loved for it to be longer to really go into more detail on how the magic started to break. They never really explained that. I feel like it was rushed and incomplete. Lin-Manuel Miranda should just stick to musicals. And that is fair enough, except for 2 things. 1, Lin-Manuel Miranda didn't write or direct this movie. Jared Bush and Byron Howard did. Miranda only wrote the songs and music. And also, while not explained, it is made pretty clear why the magic was dying. But let's move on to the next one. This is the best Disney movie by far. I really enjoyed it. I watched it on the day it came out, and I'm still watching. This movie is awesome. And now, another Disney light. Incoherent plot, choppy, frantic humor that fell flat. I wish Disney got their guts/balls back. Next, best ever. Best movie for kids and older. Thanks Disney for happiness. Obviously, somebody was happy with this movie. But moving on. Horrible. Don't even waste your time. It's just an Up wannabe, and the soundtrack is horrible. Please don't waste your money on this or the songs. Okay, personally, I think that person's headphones are broken, but they're entitled to their own opinion, just like everybody else. And next, Worth the Watch. I highly enjoyed this movie. It was actually rather well done. I would highly recommend this movie if you enjoy Disney princess movies. It is a musical based around Hispanic witch that blesses her family with her magic. I'm finding that people who belittle Disney movies are often the ones that don't like them or enjoy Disney musicals. Okay, good review, but the plot description is a bit off. Alma's not a witch. But that's irrelevant here. Let's just carry on. Lighten up. It was a kids' movie with good lessons. My grandkids have seen it at least 20 times. They love it. And if they love it, I do too. And Encanto. All the family. They gave this one 5 stars, just in case the review itself was vague. Why I hate it. The movie is good, but needs a deeper and more free look of the surroundings, and it only focuses on Mirabelle, mostly. And just make a sequel. Though they used the word hate, it sounded more like they just had some problems with it, especially because they gave it 3 stars and want them to make a sequel. But getting back into it, wonderful. It was beautiful, catchy music, and inclusive of diversity. And finally, it's just Coco, but worse. This movie needn't have been made. Everything it does, Coco does better. Alright, so now let's see how people felt about Turning Red. Different perspective. Turning red is the perfect innuendo to introduce someone to a subject or topic which may be taboo in certain households. The story is simple, but imaginative to the point where you will rewatch the film all over again. I enjoy all the characters just from their personalities. You would want to see them again in other Pixar films. Turning Red is going to become a classic in its own right, and I hope Pixar can find a why for part 2, which tells the story of Ming. And next we have Worse Than Cars 2. This movie paints parents in a pretty bad light and ends up seemingly trying to teach them a lesson rather than the kids watching. The lesson for kids is basically forget your family's expectations, and if it feels good, do it. It literally ends with a my body, my choice joke from the daughter of the mom. The daughter literally sells her body for money to buy concert tickets in the film. The philosophy of this film seems to be do as thou wilt, which is a very concerning message for children in my opinion. And then there's Horrible Message. Not for kids at all. At first I was like, okay, it's a movie about puberty and about all the strange desires and things your body is going through at that time, and sure, some parts were funny. Then by the end it was like, don't care what your parents think or say, you are your own person, my body, my choice. The fact that this movie was made for little children is horrible. This message is unacceptable to put in front of children, and it literally teaches them to disrespect their parents and make them think they can do whatever they want. Disney, let the parents decide on what they feel right to teach their kids instead of shoving these messed up ideas down children's throats. Now, personally, I think they may have gone a little far, but again, they are perfectly entitled to their opinion. Now moving on, not for kids. Parents, show your younger kids something else. Next, Turning Red. Not for children. They gave this one 1 star. And Horrible Message to kids to disobey their parents. teaches kids about their periods and disobeying their parents. I'm done with Disney. What happened to wholesome movies that taught kids good morals and respecting their elders? Well, I guess those stopped when the elders started becoming sympathetic antagonists. But now's not the time for jokes. Let's just continue. Awful. Don't let your kids watch this. Teaches all the wrong things about parent and child relationships. Sneaking out, talking back. It's just not a family movie like they used to make. And now, such a bad children's movie. I hate that I let my 9-year-old watch this before screening it. Promotes horrible parent-child relationships, consistent with Disney's disobey your parents and you'll get everything you want theme for so many of its movies, selling oneself for money, and masturbating, to name a few. Such a poor movie. I wish they'd remove it from Disney Plus. Pretty good, though I do disagree with the consistent theme claim and the masturbating. But let's move on to the next one. So bad. Cringy times a million. Cringy, terrible movie. And it's not terrible because of the puberty thing. It's terrible because of their approach to it. The cringy behavior of the mom and the defiant behavior of the child is off-putting and uncomfortable. Words matter, and there is no good communication lessons in this movie. Their approach is way off here. Disney needs new writers. They're going downhill fast with garbage like this. And don't let your kids watch this. This movie is trying to normalize puberty. It's disgusting how this movie talks about puberty so casually. Puberty should be talked about to children at least 10 to 12 years old and not to 5-year-olds who are seeing this movie. And next we have loved it. What? You mean sneaking out and having a period or things that never happen? I teach my kids reality. Thanks, Disney, for making my job easier. Next, terrible movie. It's just weird the way the movie is about growing up. And this is kind of like a weird movie. Gives a 9 out of 10. And finally we have meh. Girl sells her body to go to a concert. Now let me just once again clarify that I did not pick out these reviews and that I let the site do it for me. These reviews, as well as the order they're in, I copied directly from the iTunes store. So with that being said, it can definitely be said that based off these reviews, people seem to like Encanto better. Now obviously this is only a fraction of the views on the site, and that it's not exactly the pinnacle of accuracy, but again, I just did this to give an idea of what people think. And you also notice that the negative reviews for Encanto had a lot more to do with the plot, how they found it confusing, or that they felt certain opportunities were wasted. While in the case of Turning Red, the negative reviews were targeted a lot more at the whole movie's themes and what they perceived to be its messages, or just didn't like it on the whole. And when you really think about it, if the panda is a metaphor for puberty, and May is making money off of showing it and letting people take pictures, I can see how you can get some pretty disturbing ideas from it. Am I saying that was Disney's intention? No, absolutely not. I don't think that's what they were trying to say at all. All I'm saying is that I can understand where some of these people's issues are coming from. But in the end, it seems that a lot of these people liked Encanto because it was about family, and didn't like Turning Red because the family dynamic is so turbulent. In addition to other things, obviously. But what's important to remember here is that people can collectively misunderstand what something is saying, and Turning Red is no exception. For example, Is turning red actually telling children to disobey their parents? Well, no. Especially because every time May does, she suffers some pretty serious consequences for it. What it's actually trying to say is that people need to understand that both their parents and children are only human and therefore are going to make mistakes. And it'll be better for everyone involved if they just realize and accept that. And that's only one example of the misconceptions surrounding this movie. But at the same time, let me leave you with this to think about. If so many adults could end up taking the wrong message, and a pretty bad one at that, away from this movie, isn't it all the more likely that the children watching it will too? Okay, I think that's everything I've got on that. So now I want to hear your opinions. Do you believe the reviews I shared proved anything as far as which movie being better goes? Or are you still convinced that they're both great movies? And what did you think of the reviews themselves? However you feel, please let me know in the comments below. And let me just once again stress that you don't have to agree with everything or anything presented in this video. Even I don't. The whole point here is that everybody is entitled to their own feelings on the matter, and you are no different. So if you hated this video and everything in it, that is absolutely fine. And thank you all for watching. I very much appreciate it, and I hope to see you all next time.